Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Pot Strickland. I'm your host, Shwin and Prez, and this is episode 490. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host Prez, that is at _Presidente on Twitter and at Presidente on Blue Sky. Prez, how you doing?
I'm good. Enjoying the aftermath of our splendid dub.
I thought you were gonna say you were enjoying like a beer or something.
No, maybe later.
It's not 5 o'clock yet, unfortunately. Still a little bit of time. Still on the clock.
It was a good win, but it wasn't that good of a win.
We're gonna talk about that. The Knicks defeating the Pistons in Game 3. But before we do that, do have to make a few announcements. First, that Strickland has a YouTube channel where you may be watching this podcast. If you are, and you have not done so already, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, leave us a comment. That'd be a huge help to us. Strickland also has merchandise, which you can find on our website at www.thestrick.land. There's a link that'll take you to the merchandise store, and there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can find on there, like t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, coffee mugs, water bottles, you name it, we've got it. Strickland also has a Patreon, which you can subscribe to. There are a number of different tiers. There's a $6 tier that gets you access to Pod Strickland, this podcast that I host every Friday with Prez. You also get access to Text My Obvious Bozos podcast hosted by Andrew Steele, a.k.a. Doug, along with Zach Blatter. And you get access to the Strickland Discord where the conversation never stops. So further tiers, there's a $9 tier that gives you access to Strickland Roll, my solo pod, right, Ryan Graham, with even more. You also get access to wonderful premium articles by Matthew Marino, one of the best in the business. And you get access to Strictly NFL, which you guessed it is a podcast about the NFL that is hosted by Konstantin Mechkos and Desmond Novak. There are further tiers. It's a $15 tier, $30 tier, $50 tier, and a $100 tier that's coming with a variety of additional benefits, like listening on our pod recordings, merchandise discounts, and potentially co-hosting a podcast alongside yours truly one day, whether you choose to subscribe or not, necessarily possible at you. And that's all. So without further ado, let's get started. The Knicks win 118-116 in what was a eventful game. Certainly a feisty game between the Knicks and the Pistons. The Knicks taking back control of the series, getting back control of home court once again after they had lost it in Game 2. I thought there was a lot of good from this game, and I would say a lot of the bad things are. I'm probably going to get sick and tired of saying this. It just feels like these are things that they should be able to clean up quite easily. But let's start with the good. Look, much of the discussion after Game 2 was Karl-Anthony Towns did not attempt a shot for the last 17 minutes of game time. He took 4 shots after halftime. He had 11 shots total. He ended the game with 10 points. The Knicks had to get him going. That's been a recurring issue for them towards the back half of this season, is not keeping him involved throughout games. And they made it a point to keep him involved yesterday. I mean, the start of the game, they came out. He took 3 shots real quick. And it wasn't just that he got shots. It's how quickly they were getting him to the ball or getting him the ball early in possessions. And then on top of that, I thought that they didn't lose sight of that. And, can they do more to keep him involved through the course of games? Yes, I do think they can. And I still don't quite understand why they don't run more Brunson and Cat pick and rolls, even if Josh Hart's man is not actually defending Josh Hart and just clogging the paint. I don't get that at times, but they made it a point to keep him involved, I thought, throughout this game. And even towards the end of the game, in crunch time, moments where we often kind of see it devolve into just the Jalen Brunson show. And look, it was the Jalen Brunson show again. But I did think that even in the midst of that, they did a good job or a better job, I should say, of keeping Cat involved, making him part of the game plan, and going to him in situations and moments where he had an advantage. But I don't know. What did you think of the difference between their approach in Game 2 in kind of keeping Cat involved versus what we saw last night?
They did a couple of things to get him involved that I thought were good. It looks like it wasn't just coincidental. It looks like it was a more concerted effort schematically and also on behalf of the various Knicks ball handlers, right? Like a lot of people on the internets were telling me that, Cat needs to be more assertive and, he needs to just go and get the ball or go post up with his hand up or whatever, or be more like Jokic or Joel Embiid, which I hope I never have to hear any of my favorite players referred to as I hope they need to be more like Joel Embiid. The difference being those guys are the actual initiators. They're the de facto point guards, with apologies, just kidding, no apologies to Tyrese Maxey on their team. Cat isn't that. He gets the ball through entry passes into the post. He gets the ball by getting pitches when he's trailing or setting a pick and then receiving the ball. Something happens before he gets the ball. He doesn't just fucking get the ball automatically. Could he have been more assertive? Of course, but the game plan to get him the ball necessarily has to involve more players than just Cat. So with that being said, it was good to see in the first quarter, literally all the players, but especially Hart, pushing the ball a little bit, right? We're used to Jalen Brunson crossing the half court line at 16 seconds exactly, right in front, right before he gets an 8-second violation. Instead,
I like when he does that, and he does like he takes the last two steps, like he's like, oh shit, clock's at 17, and just like quickly takes the last 2 steps. It's like, dude, why didn't you just?
no, the clock isn't at 17. The clock is at like 16, and the NBA is just not gonna make that call. Like,
Well, they
there's no...
they don't call it until 15. That's like a general. I don't actually fully understand that, but
Yeah.
he always does that. It's like he's like, oh, all right, let me just take these last 2 steps now. It's like, why didn't you just fucking walk across like a normal human being?
Yeah. So even Brunson, but especially Hart and McCall were you would regularly see the ball get near the 3-point line at 17, 18, 19, 20 seconds, and then you would see a pass to Cat trailing. And yeah, sure works every time. We see it with Boston with Kristaps. It's not some fucking rocket science strategy. So you keep doing that until they come out, and then once they come out far, then you can have Cat blow by them. So like it was an easy first quarter decision to set the tone, because those are easy shots for Cat. I think his percentage on long threes is above 40, if I recall. I think it's like 42 or something like that. Straight away long threes. So that was one easy way to get him the ball. They also did some like, what do you call them? Like cross screens or whatever, where he like gets his post position via like running around the screen and then getting the entry pass at the same time. And he drew several fouls because of that. Generally, they just started working earlier, right? Like they weren't like, all right, hold Tobias at the free throw line for fucking 10 minutes and then we'll give
Just
you the
just
ball.
just to clear this up, from 25 to 29 feet, Cat attempted 3.9 shots per game. He shot 42.3% on those.
Yeah, there you go. The guy, it's a layup for him for the most part. So early offense is always good for Cat, whether it's driving or shooting, and that requires ball handlers to do their work early. And they were doing that. So it was just night and day. And then like later they, gave him some post touches on different parts of the court. When Tobias was on him, especially since the Pistons were weirdly like not like they were like, what if we, instead of having Duren help completely off Josh Hart, only helped a little bit? They were like, what if we made our strategy worse? I was like, okay, thanks, JD.
Well, I'm not sure if I think Duren's just a stupid player right now. Like,
yeah,
to some
yeah,
extent.
they were definitely brain farts by him.
Yeah,
Like,
so
I'm just joking about Bickerstaff.
because like when
like...
because when Paul Reed was in the game, like you could tell he was like very purposeful of like he was basically like, if Josh Hart was on the left side of the floor and Cat was on the right, he would be like standing right at the like free throw line, or not the free throw line, but like the lane on the left side, and he just keep like
stepping over to the middle, but then coming back out so that he'd reset the defensive 3 clock. It was pretty funny to watch that. But like, what I liked in this game, and take this for what it is, because this is just the reality of the situation. Josh Hart is being defended by a big man. That big man is not actually defending Josh Hart. The Knicks are, look, Tom Thibodeau has decided, and I'm not even going to cast judgment on it. I'm just telling you what it is. Tom Thibodeau doesn't care. Okay, that doesn't matter to him. And like, he wants Josh Hart on the floor, so that's what it is. I think it's important that even if that's the case, to do what they did yesterday, which is, it does not matter if this spacing is not ideal. It does not matter if this is not the perfect way to get Cat the ball and get him an ideal matchup and put him in the optimal position. Get him the fucking ball. Just get him the ball. Like, it doesn't matter. If your choice is to play Josh Hart and the spacing is going to be fucked up and it is what it is, then the entire point is, it is what it is. You have to give Cat the ball still. You can't kind of like use that or take that to justify not giving him the ball. You know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of force feed him. And I think that was very clear yesterday, is even when they were strongly overplaying to Cat, like you mentioned, when they have Tobias on him in the post, they have Tobias on him, but then, Duren or Reed will basically just be like standing underneath the rim as he starts backing down. They weren't getting easily dissuaded from doing that, and it wasn't successful every time, especially like when Mitch was playing the 5, you could tell the spacing was kind of cramped and it wasn't clean. And, those guys are still figuring out how to kind of like play off of each other right now and understand where each other's going to be and how the spacing works there. But like, you just have to keep giving him the ball. And they did that yesterday. And you know what? Like, we talked a lot about Cat, and he deserves that. And honestly, the offense was obviously spectacular. I mean, that move he made at the end of the fourth, where he just, he does like turns over, like fakes going over his right shoulder, spins back to the baseline over his left, and drains a fading like midi over, I mean, he's basically behind the backboard and he lets that go away. It's a ridiculous shot. That pushed the Knicks lead up to 7 at 108-101. But, the offense is obviously always going to be great for Cat, when he gets the ball enough, especially, and if the matchups are in his favor, especially. I thought his defense yesterday was pretty solid. And I would say, did he have a couple of like breakdowns and pick and rolls? Yeah, of course he did. Of course he did. But I thought for the most part, he did a really good job. And I thought his effort was really good. I thought, in particular, I would say down the stretch in the fourth quarter, I thought he was great. That contest he had on Cade after he had OG literally sprawled on the floor was arguably the biggest. I mean, that sequence was probably the biggest swing in the game, because Cat gets a stop there. Brunson gets he gets the ball and immediately takes it coast to coast. He goes, for the layup, pushes the lead out to 5. That was a huge sequence. Cat was phenomenal there. And then on top of just like the defensive part of it and doing a better job of contesting at the rim and just kind of being a presence there and reading the game, I thought some of the rebounds he came down with in traffic were huge. And this is a night where, look, I don't know what the fuck was going on with Mitch in the second half. I don't know if he like lit up a blunt at halftime or something, but as soon as he was so slow on rebounds in the second half, like Paul Reed crushed him on the glass, which was really weird to see. But I thought Cat did a really good job. And yeah, I just wanted to highlight that, because I think it's always easy to focus on his offense. And I understand why the focus will always be primarily on his offense. But I would say you're going on 3 games now in this series where, when I'm watching the Knicks' issues on defense, most of it is not Cat related. And and their defense, for the most part, I think has actually been pretty decent.
I'll tell you why. Things
they're fucking up. Yeah, and I just think the things they're fucking up aren't really related to Cat. I don't think they're really related to OG. I don't think they're really related to Mikal Bridges. So I just want to highlight that, because I think we always kind of, and I understand he is obviously a vastly superior offensive player than what he gives you defensively, but I think he's been pretty locked in during this series, and it's worth giving him some praise for that.
Totally agree. He has not been at the center of our defensive issues. He hasn't been our worst defender. A lot of that is a credit to how the Knicks how Tibbs and OG and Mikal a little bit yesterday were approaching defending Cade. Cade, yesterday they got back to forcing him left off of before screens and after screens. They actually added in some ball denial, both Mikal and Cade on top of that. So not only were their goal was to eventually force him left, but they were trying to take more time off the clock to start with, so he couldn't just like rescreen a bunch of times and shit like that. And the result was like when he goes left, it's crazy. When he goes right, he's like Michael fucking Jordan, which is why that one play where he dropped OG and Cat came to get his back was so amazing. Because like that, he got to his spot that time, big time. But when he goes left, he sucks. It's crazy. Like he's a worse passer. He is a worse shooter. Sometimes he'll continue going far left to the baseline, and from there he's fine. But like if he's in the paint going left, like he's not good. And more importantly, he's not driving if he's going left. He's not. So if he's not driving, then if you're Cat, you don't have to. You can just worry about helping, almost as if you're playing power forward. You don't have to worry about like dropping all the way to the hoop. You can just like play him straight up, because you don't have to worry about him passing as much, and you have OG or Mikal there to help you on top of that. So like what's happening right now is Cat is allowed to, he's being put in a position by the Pistons and by Tibbs and by by OG to play to the parts of his defense that he's less bad at. So it's not quite the game one like playing up stuff, but he's not really having to like do the stuff he's fucking terrible at, and he's way better at help defense than he is at being like the main guy as he's dropping back. And OG being such an animal means that like Cat can just focus on basically coming out of nowhere and being big, or just coming out of nowhere and just jumping as high as he can. So like it's much simplified for him, and he's fine in that respect. So like, it's a great game plan. They did it really well. 10 for 25 for Cade, 6 turnovers. Never really got into an aggressive flow as a scorer. The only time he got into a flow as a passer was that stretch where the Knicks didn't understand how to trap and defend a short roll pass, and Jalen Duren was doing his thing.
Yeah, and actually,
in the third quarter,
actually on those, like, I think so. Cat on a couple of those, I think they forced Cade left. Cat would show to the level, but then I think he dropped off too soon, and OG wasn't in position to recover in front of Cade yet. And so it just kind of like gave Cade a very easy opening to find Duren on the roll for like lobs and stuff like that. So they need to clean some of that up. But I mean, if that's what you have to clean up, like you just kind of have to accept that, Cat's never going to be, some perfect like defensive player. Right. There are always going to be lapses. That's just part of what you sign up for when you acquire the guy. But yeah, I think he's played really, really well, and he deserves a ton of credit. I thought he was huge yesterday. Arguably the Knicks
just continues to hit the most insane shots regularly. Like it's, I remember when we had just traded for Cat, and we were like, okay, Randall versus Cat, blah blah blah. Everybody knows, like, yes, Cat is a better shooter, and then like the thing that stuck out to me, just looking at their like synergy profiles months ago, was like all the types of finishes and shots inside the 3-point line that Randall was solid at, Cat was great at. Like mid-range jump shots, like Randall was okay, Cat was great. Like layups, Randall was okay, Cat was great. Like floaters, Randall was okay, Cat was great. Like the guy is just a fucking bonkers shot maker, and like he's in the tier of shot maker that Jalen Brunson is. Like I don't think it gets said enough. Like you can put those two guys just in terms of just like fucking real hoops, go get a bucket, like degree of difficulty. You can put them with literally anybody in the NBA as far as like the ease of which they make difficult baskets. So like that's something that you obviously don't have with Randall. That's something that most teams don't fucking have one guy who can do that, much less two. So it was just great. It's just crazy to see him just like unload these fucking shots. And then it's like, okay, back on the other end, like it's now just normal for Knicks fans to just be like, oh yeah, Cat, falling out of bounds, floater, up and under, whatever, like dream shake, mid-range fadeaway, like all that shit is basically like, wow, what a shot. Anyway, like that's like basically the reaction now. And then you look at the end of the game and it's like a bunch of easy shots, the trailer threes, and then a bunch of just straight bucket work shots. And that's how he rolls. And like there were questions about like Cat in the playoffs, but like especially when he's at the 5 on offense, I don't know, if you get him in the right situations, not everybody's obviously Tobias Harris on defense, but if you get him in the right situations, like I'm not particularly worried about his offense, right? Like we talked about this way in the beginning of the season, like most of his trouble getting out of control in Minnesota on offense when he was at the 4 was like driving into a crowd or not knowing how to handle hard double teams posting up near the baseline very well. And the drives are a lot easier when you're a 5, and most of his post-ups are not at the baseline anymore. So like, boom, you've basically just solved those two things. So obviously he's not unguardable or anything, but like he's a fucking weapon. And like the Knicks have plenty of other issues and inconsistencies, right? Like even yesterday, like I thought generally their defense was very good. I think if they didn't fucking have Nerlens Noel's hands for 45 minutes as a team, I think they probably would have won by like 30. I've never seen a game where as many loose balls, deflections, or rebounds were in their hand, like all those categories of plays, and they just like bobbled the fucking ball. It was and in the first half especially, it directly led to many of the Detroit 3-pointers. So like in the end of the first quarter, if they had just normal fucking human being athlete hands, they would have been up 15 points.
Oh, OG and Mitch were fucking ridiculous yesterday. I couldn't like believe every time the ball, like there was a loose ball in their vicinity. I was like, oh, I wonder how they're gonna fucking fumble this off their dicks to right to the Pistons again.
Dude, it was literally everybody except the only person who didn't, because I was taking notes because I was like, yesterday I did the fucking rundown and I was like, I've never done this. Let me take fucking notes like a weirdo. And at some point I just stopped the recording, like who was bobbling because it was fucking everybody except Josh Hart. And like Cat had a big one in the fourth quarter, like a rebound that dropped into his hand and he just didn't grab it. And like McCall had a couple where he just lost the fucking ball. And it's just like, dudes, like this game didn't have to be that close. Literally, if you just held out to the ball. It was so funny. But it just goes to show you that like, because those basically result in like either transition or semi-transition or scrambles. So like those are going to be hard to defend anytime you're trying to recover from a fumble situation or a deflection or a loose ball or whatever. So I don't have the stats in front of me, but I bet if you were to look at like how the Knicks defense was basically while set, they probably had like stats through the roof in terms of their effectiveness. It was really good. Despite the best efforts of FIBA Dennis.
Yeah, look, I think there's some things that the Knicks do need to clean up. I thought Brunson and Hart, honestly, just both of them, I don't know what goes on in their brain sometimes, but
Brunson just gives up halfway through the play,
they just fall asleep on shooters constantly, and fall asleep in the dumbest ways possible. Like there was a play, to your point, in the third quarter yesterday, I think it was, where Brunson's on Hardaway Jr. He kind of closes out to him fine. Hardaway has to put the ball on the floor. He drives in. He tosses it to somebody. I forget who. And then he just clears out to the opposite side wing. Like he just kind of throws the ball and then keeps going.
And Brunson just stopped in the middle.
Yeah. Brunson just stopped in the middle. And Hardaway Jr. gets a wide open 3 out of it. And I'm like, why did any of that need? Like none of that needed to happen. I think it might have been that Hart closed out to like Ron Holland who on that play or something. I don't remember what exactly it was. It's a very stupid play, but you saw stuff like that all throughout. Like in the first quarter, there's a play where Brunson is.
It was bad in the first quarter.
Yeah, well, there was in the first quarter. I don't remember who. I think it was they threw the ball to Duran in like kind of the left side, the wing basically, and they're trying to run maybe like a dribble handoff or whatever the hell it was. And Brunson comes over and starts doubling Duran, and his man's just wide open in the corner, Tim Hardaway Jr. And it's like that's like, there's no need. You don't need to double Jalen Duran there. Like you don't need to double really anybody there, but you definitely don't need to be doubling Jalen Duran. Again, I don't remember who. It might not even been Duran. It could have been anybody. It didn't matter who it was. Is the point. I don't remember who the fuck he was doubling, but he's doubling somebody, and he's just leaving Hardaway Jr. wide open in the corner. Gets a wide open three out of it. You're one pass away. We've seen Josh Hart help off of like his man because somebody's posting up somebody, and it's like, dude, why are you doing that? OG had a bad gamble yesterday. I think he gambled on I want to say it was Asar Thompson who had Josh Hart at the elbow, and they ended up getting an open three out of that. I think that was Hardaway Jr. as well. And it's like, dude, just Asar Thompson elbow possession, like that's fine. Like that's a win for you on defense. Whatever happens on that possession, even if they fucking score, you have won. You have won. You don't need to gamble there. That's not the time to gamble. But like this is basically most of their mistakes. Most of their mistakes are this is not a game where you're watching it and you're like, oh man, they just can't guard anybody. No, it was like, oh, they're just not ending. They're not doing. You have to play defense for 24 seconds. You can't play defense for 13 or 15 or 17. You have to play defense.
It was one of those classic things where like we've all been there to pick up basketball where you're like, I don't really respect these guys. So like, I'll make like one effort. And after that, like, I'm not chasing some fucking guy like all the way for like another minute. And Tim Hardaway was like, okay, what if I made all the shots every time you stopped? And you could see them just being like, fine. And like, that's why I think decreased a little bit as the game went on. But, 5 of 5 at one point early in the second, him and Schroeder were combined, I think 8 for 13 or something like that from 3. So like it was the majority of the Pistons offense was because of shit like that earlier. And then just in general, like they locked in as the game went on. Like early on, there were a couple of instances of the Knicks not really forcing Cade left and preventing him from going downhill. And Cat did his thing where he's just like, I'm just going to watch and not put my hand up. Not just Cade, but mostly Cade. And they resulted in missed shots, so it was fine. But I was like, okay, here we go. Cat's going to be on his bullshit. There was 2 possessions, I think, in the second quarter where earlier in the second quarter where McCall was on Cade. One of them, he got bullied and Cade scored. The other one, he got blown by. And I was like, okay, dude, you can't get bullied and blown by. You got to pick one today if you're going to do this shit. But again, then he fucking locked in along with the rest of the team. He got a chance to defend Cade, do some ball denial, which he's great at because he's so fucking long. Towards the end of the first half, and he was really, really good in that respect. It's just really team defense. Like it's not so much about one-on-one. Like yesterday, it wasn't that like McCall never got blown by or like, OG is the only one who's like necessarily spectacular one-on-one. But even then, he's so clearly like guiding Cade into other players that like it's just really, it just shows you that like, I saw people talking, like, oh, the matchup data, like McCall held Cade to 0-4 according to tracking, and Cade did this. And I'm like, I get the appeal of that, but it doesn't really sell why the Knicks defense was good yesterday. It was just good fucking team defense, which is what we waited for a long time, right? Is like, you can be the better than the sum of your parts on defense, right? Like, and again, it's what we always say about the Knicks. This iteration of the Knicks is like, they don't have to be the fucking Thunder. They just have to be like solid on defense. And what it takes to get to solid, because they are not without talent, is just like effort and communication and execution. Sounds like a Tibbs quote or some shit, but it's true.